There's a strong expansion of Key Point 1, structured as a natural and impactful speech segment. Being fully present isn't just a concept, it's a way of experiencing life at its fullest. And yet, it's one of the hardest things to do in a world that constantly pulls us in different directions. Our minds are always racing, always anticipating the next moment, the next obligation, the next worry. But what if I told you that the most powerful truths, the ones that can transform the way you see the world, are found in the stillness of now? Think about it. How often do we truly listen? Not just hear, but listen. Not just see, but observe. Not just touch, but feel. The difference is profound. When you allow yourself to exist fully in the moment, without distraction, you begin to notice things you never did before. The softness of a whisper, the warmth of the air against your skin, the way oil glides smoothly across the surface of your body. These are not just sensations, they are reminders that life is happening right now, and if you are not present, you are missing it. Most people live in their minds, consumed by the past or worried about the future. They exist in a world of constant noise, but very little awareness. They listen only to respond, they watch without truly seeing, and they touch without truly feeling. But when you slow down, when you immerse yourself in a moment so deeply that time seems to disappear, something extraordinary happens. The mind stops resisting, the body relaxes, the soul aligns. You are no longer lost in thoughts about what was or what could be, you are simply here. And that, my friends, is where true power lies. Imagine the last time you truly felt at peace. It wasn't when you were rushing, was it? It wasn't when you were thinking about 100 different things at once. No, peace is found in presence. It is found in the moments when you allow yourself to just be. When your mind isn't trying to control the experience, but is instead surrendering to it. And yet, we resist this simplicity because we have been conditioned to believe that productivity is the ultimate measure of our worth. That if we are not constantly doing, we are failing. But the truth is, the most profound moments of clarity, of healing, of understanding happen in stillness. Take something as simple as the sound of oil being poured, the way it settles, the way it moves, the way it catches the light. To some, it's just oil, but to the one who is fully present, it is an experience. It is texture, sound, movement. It is a reminder of how fluid life truly is, how everything shifts, adapts, finds its way. We are meant to do the same. When we resist the moment, we create tension. When we embrace it, we find flow. And it's not just about sensory experiences. It's about how we interact with people, how we navigate conversations, how we show up in our own lives. Have you ever spoken to someone who wasn't really there? They were physically in front of you, nodding, reacting, but you could tell they weren't present and you felt it. Because presence is something you cannot fake. When someone is truly with you, you know. And when you are truly with yourself, when you are fully engaged in what you are doing, you begin to understand the depth of life in a way that most people never will. So, if you want to change your life, start here. Start with this moment. Pay attention. Listen, not just with your ears, but with your entire being. See, not just with your eyes, but with your awareness. Feel, not just with your hands, but with your soul. Because life is happening now. And now is the only thing that is ever truly real. Sound is one of the most powerful forces we encounter, yet we take it for granted every single day. It is all around us, guiding us, shaping our emotions, influencing our thoughts. But how often do we really listen? Not just hear, but listen. The way sound moves through space, the way it lingers, the way it can trigger something deep inside of us that we cannot quite explain. That is the power of sound. It reaches us in ways that words never could. There is a reason why certain sounds make us feel calm, why a whisper can send a wave of relaxation through the body, why the slow, rhythmic motion of oil being massaged into the skin can create a sense of deep peace. It is not just the physical sensation, it is the sound itself, the gentle glide, the subtle shift, the way it resonates not only in the ears but in the entire nervous system. The body responds instinctively, softening, surrendering. That is not coincidence. That is sound doing what it was designed to do. Long before we understood the science behind it, we knew this truth intuitively. We knew that the sound of waves crashing against the shore could bring a sense of peace, that the hum of a familiar voice could ease our fears, that the crackling of a fire could make us feel safe, as if we were wrapped in something ancient and protective. These are not just sounds. They are experiences that connect us to something deeper than thought. They remind us of what it feels like to simply be. But here's the problem. We have drowned ourselves in so much noise that we have forgotten how to listen. The world is louder than ever. Machines, traffic, notifications, endless chatter. Noise surrounds us, but very little of it is meaningful. We have become so accustomed to distraction that we do not even realize what it is doing to us. We no longer seek the kind of sounds that nourish us. We tolerate the kind that exhausts us. And when we do hear something gentle, something intentional, something pure, it almost shocks us. It is as if, for a moment, the body remembers what it is supposed to feel like. That is why we are drawn to certain sounds without fully understanding why. The subtle clicking of fingertips tracing the skin, the way oil spreads in slow, deliberate movements, the delicate shifts in pressure, creating a rhythm that is both hypnotic and grounding. These are sounds that speak to something primal, something embedded in us from the very beginning. They remind us to slow down, to feel, to be present. The truth is, sound has always been a tool for healing. Ancient civilizations understood this long before modern science caught up. They used chants, drums, vibrations, each sound carrying a purpose, each frequency designed to align the body and mind. Even now we see it. Music therapy, sound baths, whispered affirmations. These are not trends, they are rediscoveries of what we have always known. That sound has the ability to shift us, to calm us, to guide us back to ourselves. And the most fascinating part? Our bodies respond even when we are not consciously aware of it. The low hum of a certain frequency can lower heart rate, reduce stress, bring the nervous system into balance. The right sound at the right moment can change the entire way we feel. That is why some people can hear the sound of rain and instantly feel at peace, why others find deep comfort in the slow, fluid movements of oil being worked into the skin, the way it moves with intention, creating soft, delicate sounds that the body instinctively trusts. But to access this power, we have to relearn how to listen. We have to strip away the noise that numbs us and return to the sounds that remind us of who we are. We have to let ourselves be immersed, fully engaged in the moment, fully present in the way sound moves through space and through us. Because sound is not just something we hear, it is something we feel. And when we truly listen, we begin to understand that sound is not just noise. It is a language that speaks directly to the soul. That is a strange misconception in the world today. This idea that taking care of yourself is somehow indulgent, something to be done only when there is extra time, extra energy, extra resources. People rush through life, convincing themselves that rest is a reward, that relaxation is a luxury, that self-care is something earned only after they have given everything else away. But this could not be further from the truth. The reality is, self-care is not a privilege, it is a necessity. It is not something you squeeze into your life when everything else is done. It is the foundation upon which everything else is built. And yet, we are conditioned to believe that pushing through exhaustion is admirable, that neglecting ourselves in the name of productivity is somehow virtuous. But let me ask you, what happens when you ignore something that needs care? It breaks down, it weakens, it loses its ability to function the way it was meant to. And that is exactly what happens when we neglect ourselves. Think about the way the body responds to touch, the way tension melts under the slow, deliberate motion of a massage, the way the warmth of oil against the skin seems to awaken something deep inside, a kind of permission to let go, to surrender. It is not just a physical reaction, it is something more. The body recognizes care. It understands when it is being nurtured, and it responds accordingly. The muscles relax, the breath deepens, the mind slows down, and in that moment something powerful happens. The body begins to heal. This is not weakness. This is not indulgence. This is what it means to be human, to need rest, to require care, to thrive not in a state of constant depletion, but in a state of balance. And yet, so many people deny themselves this basic necessity. They convince themselves they do not have time. They say, maybe later, maybe when things settle down, maybe when I'm not so busy. But life does not wait, and the longer you ignore what your body and mind are asking for, the harder it becomes to function the way you were meant to. We see it all the time. People walking around exhausted, disconnected from themselves, their shoulders tight, their breathing shallow, their minds cluttered with stress they never allow themselves to release. They carry the weight of the world, yet refuse to put it down, even for a moment. And they wonder why they feel so drained, why life feels so heavy, why nothing ever feels quite right. But the answer is simple. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot give your best to the world if you have nothing left to give yourself. And the most ironic part? The very things people avoid in the name of saving time are the things that would actually give them more energy, more clarity, more presence. The moment you allow yourself even a fraction of the care you so easily give to others, everything shifts. A single deep breath, fully embraced, can reset the nervous system. A few minutes of stillness can recalibrate the mind. The simple act of placing warm oil on the skin, moving with intention, listening to the sounds it makes, feeling the way the body responds, these are not meaningless actions. They are lifelines. They are reminders that you are here, that you exist beyond your responsibilities, beyond your obligations, beyond the endless to-do list that convince you to delay yourself for another day. The truth is, self-care is not an escape from life. It is the way back into it. It is the difference between merely existing and truly living. And if you think you do not have time to take care of yourself, ask yourself this. How much time do you waste feeling drained? How much time do you lose to stress, to exhaustion, to the overwhelming sense that something is missing? Because that time, that energy, that vitality, it does not just disappear. It is being spent somewhere. And if you are not investing it in yourself, where is it going? So, do not wait. Do not convince yourself that self-care is something that can be delayed, something that belongs to another version of you, the one who is less busy or less stressed or less responsible. That version of you will never arrive. You are here now, and right now, you have a choice to continue running on empty or to stop just for a moment and give yourself what you have needed all along. Because the truth is, taking care of yourself is not selfish. It is the only way to be who you were meant to be. The body speaks in ways we often ignore. It tells us when it is tired, when it is tense, when it is carrying something too heavy. It sends signals, subtle at first, then louder, then unbearable, until we are forced to listen. But we have been taught to silence these messages, to push through, to dismiss discomfort as something inconvenient rather than something important. And in doing so, we disconnect from one of the most profound truths, that our bodies are not separate from our emotions. They are intertwined, responding to every thought, every feeling, every experience we carry, whether we acknowledge it or not. Think about what happens when you feel stress. Your shoulders tighten, your jaw clenches, your breath becomes shallow. You may not even notice it happening, but your body does. It registers every worry, every frustration, every unspoken tension, and it holds on to them, storing them in places you do not even realize. And then one day, you feel a knot in your back that will not go away, or an ache in your chest that you cannot explain. But the body knows, the body remembers what the mind tries to forget. Now think about what happens when you are at ease. When you hear a soothing sound, when someone places warm oil against your skin and moves with care, when you feel a touch that is deliberate, intentional, without urgency, something shifts, doesn't it? The tension begins to melt, the breath deepens, the mind slows. It is not just a physical sensation, it is emotional. It is a reminder that you are safe, that you are allowed to let go. And in that moment, the body no longer has to hold on to what it was never meant to carry. There is something incredibly human about the way we respond to touch, to sensation, to sound. It is built into us. A child calms when held. A heartbeat slows when soothed. A deep exhale comes naturally when someone places a steady hand on the back and tells us everything is going to be all right. This is not weakness, this is biology. It is the way we are designed, to connect, to feel, to release. But somewhere along the way we convinced ourselves that we had to be stronger than that to need comfort was to be fragile. that to seek out touch, to crave sensation, to be deeply affected by sound or texture or movement was something to suppress rather than something to embrace. And yet the truth remains, the body and the mind are not separate entities living in isolation. They are one. What affects the mind affects the body, and what soothes the body soothes the mind. That is why something as simple as running oil along the skin, listening to the soft sounds it makes, feeling the way it moves and absorbs, can create a sense of peace that goes beyond the physical. It is why a massage is never just about the muscles. It is about the stored emotions within them. It is why certain sounds, certain rhythms, certain frequencies can shift an entire mood without a single word being spoken. But for this to work, for this truth to have meaning, you have to allow yourself to feel, and that is where most people hesitate. They fear what they might uncover if they truly listened to their own bodies. They fear what might rise to the surface if they gave themselves permission to let go. So they stay tense, they stay guarded, they hold on to stress because releasing it feels unfamiliar. They keep themselves busy because stillness might make them feel too much, and so they exist in a constant state of holding, bracing, resisting. But here's the thing, what you resist does not disappear. It stays, it settles. It becomes part of you in ways you do not even realize. And the longer you hold on to it, the heavier it becomes. But the moment you allow yourself to feel, to truly feel, something incredible happens. The body softens, the mind clears, the weight begins to lift, and suddenly the world feels different, not because it has changed, but because you have. So do not be afraid to listen. Do not be afraid to feel. Do not be afraid to give yourself what you have always needed but never allowed. Because the body is not just something you exist in, it is something you must take care of, something you must honor, something you must learn to understand. And the moment you do, you will realize that the peace you have been searching for has been within you all along. Everything in life is connected. Every thought, every movement, every sensation. It all weaves together into something greater than we can see. Yet most people live as if their bodies, minds, and emotions are separate, as if what happens in one does not affect the others. But the truth is, there is no real separation. What we think manifests in the body. What we feel influences our thoughts. What we do with our bodies shapes our emotions. It is all intertwined, an endless cycle of cause and effect, balance and imbalance. You can see it in the simplest of things. Take a deep breath. Not a shallow one, but a real, intentional breath. Feel how your shoulders move, how your chest expands, how your body responds. In just that small act, something shifts. Maybe a little tension eases. Maybe the mind feels just a bit clearer. And yet, how often do people forget to breathe like this? How often do they go through life rushing, tightening, holding their breath without even realizing it? And then they wonder why they feel so anxious, so disconnected, so weighed down. But it is not a mystery, it is a consequence of not paying attention to the simple but powerful ways in which the body and mind communicate. Touch is another example. Something as simple as running your hand along the surface of your own skin, feeling the warmth, the texture, the presence of yourself. How often do people take a moment to do that? To just exist in their own bodies, fully aware of the way sensation moves through them. Most do not. They rush past themselves, treating their bodies like machines instead of something living, breathing, needing care. And then, when they finally do stop, when they allow themselves to feel the slow glide of oil across their skin, to hear the soft, rhythmic sounds it makes, to notice how the body responds when given attention, they realize something. That peace was never somewhere out there, it was always within them, waiting to be noticed. But noticing takes effort. It requires slowing down. And slowing down is uncomfortable for many. They fill their lives with noise, with distraction, with endless activity because stillness forces them to feel, and feeling is not always easy. But the body does not forget. The body keeps track of every moment of stress, every suppressed emotion, every time it was asked to endure without relief. And it will continue holding on until you decide to release it. That is why something as simple as touch, as sound, as breath can be so powerful. It is not about indulgence, it is about reconnection. Everything is energy. The way we move, the way we speak, the way we experience the world. It is all vibration, all frequency, all something beyond what we can see. And whether we realize it or not, we are constantly absorbing, constantly reacting, constantly shifting based on the energy around us. Why some people bring us clarity while others leave us tense? Why the sound of a whisper, the soft hum of oil being warmed between hands, the gentle movement of touch across the skin can feel like more than just sensation. It can feel like healing. Because it is. It is the body remembering its natural state, remembering what it feels like to be aligned. And alignment is everything. When the body, the mind, and the emotions are in sync, life flows differently. There is less resistance, less struggle, less of the constant battle against ourselves. But when they are disconnected, when the mind is racing while the body is exhausted, when emotions are ignored while stress builds up, it is like trying to move forward while carrying a weight you cannot see. And most people live like this without even realizing it, unaware that the heaviness they feel is not just life being difficult, but a symptom of being out of balance. But balance is always within reach. It is in the breath. It is in the sound of something gentle, something rhythmic, something grounding. It is in the way the body reacts when given care, when touch is intentional, when presence is uninterrupted. And once you understand this, once you truly feel the connection between everything within you, you cannot ignore it anymore. You cannot go back to pretending that what happens in the mind does not affect the body, or that what the body experiences does not shape the mind. So listen. Pay attention to what your body is telling you, to the way it responds to sound, to touch, to the space around you. Because once you recognize that everything is connected, you will never again settle for living as if you are separate from yourself. People spend their whole lives searching for meaning. They chase success, approval, love, always looking for something outside themselves to fill the space within. But meaning is not something waiting to be found. It is something created. Something uncovered in the moments when you are truly present, when you strip away all the distractions and realize that life itself is the meaning. Yet, so many resist this truth. They believe that happiness is something in the distance, something that comes after the next achievement, the next milestone, the next moment of recognition. But life does not begin when you have finally made it. It is happening now, in every breath, in every sensation, in every small moment you choose to fully experience. The problem is, people have been conditioned to think that the small moments do not matter, that only the grand ones are worth paying attention to. But what if the opposite were true? What if the way you pour oil into your hands before it touches your skin, the way sound moves through a room, the way the body instinctively relaxes under the right touch, what if these were not just insignificant details, but the very essence of what makes life beautiful? Everything carries meaning if you allow it to. The way you wake up in the morning, the way you breathe, the way you touch, the way you listen. Every act is either rushed through or embraced. And the difference between a life that feels empty and a life that feels full is not in how much you accomplish, but in how deeply you experience what is already there. But presence takes practice. People have become so accustomed to distraction that they do not even realize how rarely they are fully in the moment. Even when they are still, their minds are elsewhere, tangled in thoughts about yesterday or worries about tomorrow. And so they move through life without ever truly feeling it, without ever giving themselves permission to stop and exist completely in a single moment. But when you do, when you allow yourself to be fully here, to feel the texture of your own skin, to hear the subtle sounds of movement, to sense the weight of your body resting into something solid, you remember something. You remember that you are alive, and that is the simplest, most profound truth. You are alive. Not in some distant future where everything is perfect, not in the past where things could have been different. Now, in this moment. And if you cannot find meaning here, you will not find it anywhere else. Because meaning is not something given to you, it is something you choose to see. It is in the way you care for yourself, not as an afterthought, but as something sacred. It is in the way you touch another person, not absent-mindedly, but with intention. It is in the way you listen, the way you breathe, the way you allow yourself to fully inhabit your own body instead of treating it as something separate from who you are. And when you do that, when you truly embrace the present, everything changes. The world becomes more vivid. The sounds, the sensations, the movements, things that once felt ordinary become extraordinary. A single breath can feel like a release. The warmth of your own skin can feel like comfort. The gentle movement of oil, the rhythm of sound, the stillness of a moment fully experienced, these things can be enough. They have always been enough, but it is up to you to notice them, to stop waiting for something greater, something louder, something more obvious, to tell you that you are exactly where you are meant to be. Because if you are not careful, you will spend your whole life searching for something that has been in front of you all along. So slow down, feel everything, be present. Because life is not what is coming next, it is what is happening now. And the moment you choose to embrace it, you will realize that nothing was ever missing.